I still remember the morning my daughter, Emily, called me. Her voice sounded like sunshine. Warm. Excited. Almost trembling. "Mom," she said. "I finally met someone. He's the one." I smiled. Even before she finished her sentence. It had been years since I'd heard that tone in her voice, the kind where hope and happiness run together. For a moment, I forgot all the lonely nights I'd spent wondering if she'd ever find peace again. "That's wonderful, sweetheart," I said. "Tell me about him." She laughed softly, almost shy. "His name's Daniel. He's kind, gentle, and Mom, he listens to me." Those last words, "he listens to me," they hit me deep. Because Emily had spent years being unheard. Her father and I divorced when she was just 10, and I always feared she'd carry those broken echoes into her own relationships. But now, hearing her voice glow with life again, I thought maybe she'd finally healed. Over the next few weeks, she called every night. She told me about Daniel's job, how he opened doors for her, how he remembered her favorite coffee order, black, with a little cinnamon. She told me he made her feel safe. Every time she talked about him, I prayed silently, "Please, let this man be the one who truly deserves her." When she finally said they were getting married, my heart swelled. I cried, but it was the kind of crying that comes from relief. Like maybe life was giving her back the joy it once took away. She said the wedding would be small, intimate, at a beautiful church near the coast. "You'll love it, Mom," she told me. "It feels like home." For weeks, I planned everything I could. My dress, her favorite flowers, a small gift I'd give her before the ceremony. A mother's little rituals, trying to make sure her daughter's big day goes perfectly. But something strange happened one night. Emily called, and her voice was quieter than usual, almost hesitant. "Mom," she said, "there's something I need to tell you. But please promise you won't judge me." I sat up straight. My heart tensed. "What is it, baby?" She paused for a long time. I could hear her breathing, nervous and uneven. "It's about Daniel," she said finally. "He's older." I smiled softly, relieved. "Older? Honey, age doesn't matter if you love each other." But then she whispered, "No, Mom. He's much older. He's 58. My breath caught. Emily was 30. Still, I tried to keep my voice calm. "Sweetheart, are you sure? That's a big age difference." "I know," she said. "But you'll understand when you meet him. He's different. He's gentle. He makes me feel alive again." I didn't argue, because deep down, I knew my daughter had grown into a woman who made her own choices. And maybe, after everything she'd been through, she just wanted someone stable, someone who wouldn't leave. The wedding was set for early spring. I packed my suitcase carefully, folded her favorite blue shawl to wear, and put a small silver locket inside. The one her father gave me the day she was born. I thought it would be my gift to her, something to remind her she was always loved. The drive to the church was long and quiet. The sun was low, spilling golden light through the trees. I remember thinking how beautiful everything looked, peaceful, almost too perfect. But when I walked into the church, my heart stopped. The air left my lungs. My hands trembled so violently, I nearly dropped the locket. Standing at the altar, in a black suit, smiling proudly beside my daughter, was him, Daniel. But Daniel wasn't just some stranger. He was the man I'd loved years ago. The man who broke my heart when I was younger. The man who walked away without a word, leaving behind a letter that said, "I'm not ready for a family." My mind froze. My eyes blurred. How could this be possible? My daughter, my only daughter, was marrying him. He looked almost the same. A little older, a little grayer, but I'd know those eyes anywhere. The same deep brown, the same soft voice when he greeted the guests. He hadn't seen me yet. Emily rushed toward me, her face glowing. "Mom, you made it." I tried to smile, to breathe, to speak. But my throat locked. I hugged her tightly, maybe tighter than I should have, trying to keep the tears from falling. She thought they were tears of joy, but they weren't. They were tears of disbelief. And something much deeper, a pain that burned quietly under my ribs. As she led me toward him, I felt every step like a heartbeat. Slow, heavy, terrified. "Mom," she said, "this is Daniel." He turned, and in that second his eyes met mine. The smile on his face faded, just slightly, enough for me to see the shock. He froze too for half a breath. But then, like a man trained to hide emotion, he extended his hand and said softly, "It's an honor to finally meet you, Mrs. Bennet." I shook his hand. And I smiled. That polite, frozen smile every woman learns when her heart is breaking. Inside, I wanted to scream. But I couldn't. Not on her wedding day. I had to stand there, watching my past hold hands with my future. Watching the man who once promised me forever now promise my daughter the same. That night I didn't sleep. I sat by the window of my hotel room, staring at the sea. The waves kept crashing, like echoes of the same question in my mind. Does he remember me? And if he does, why didn't he say something before now? I sat there on the edge of my bed for what felt like forever, staring at the little photo I'd taken from Emma's bag earlier that day. It was a small picture, slightly bent, showing a man with a charming smile, standing beside a shiny black car. He looked confident, the kind of man who knew how to charm people with words. My stomach twisted as I looked at his face again. It was him, Daniel Reed. 25 years ago, that same man walked out of my life after breaking my trust in a way I could never forget. I was young back then, raising Emma on my own after her father left. Daniel came into my world when I was at my weakest. He was kind, helpful, and made me feel seen again. I thought he truly loved me. But that love ended the day I found out he had another woman. A family of his own in another town. The lies, the betrayal, the shame, it destroyed me. I packed up, moved away, and promised myself I would never let anyone like him near my family again. And now, years later, he was standing in my daughter's life, as her dream man. When Emma came home that evening, glowing with excitement, I didn't know how to tell her. She was humming a little tune, talking about the wedding plans, the dress, the venue. Her joy filled the house, but all I could hear were the echoes of that same man's voice from my past, promising me forever before walking away. "Mom," she said, waving her phone at me. "He's picking me up tomorrow for dinner. You'll finally meet him next weekend. Isn't that amazing?" I smiled faintly, trying to steady my voice. "That's wonderful, sweetheart." But inside, my heart was trembling. I couldn't ruin her happiness, not yet. Not without being absolutely sure. Maybe it wasn't the same man. Maybe my eyes were wrong. People change, faces change. I told myself that all night, but I barely slept. I drove home shaking. My hands were cold, my heart numb. How could I tell her that the man she loved, the man she was going to marry, was the same one who broke her mother years ago? That night, I sat alone with an old photo album on my lap. There he was again, young Daniel, standing beside me, smiling. I tore that picture out and held it next to Emma's photo of her fiancé. There was no denying it now. The next morning, Emma came into the kitchen wearing a bright yellow dress. "Mom, we're going to see the venue today. He wants you to come too." I froze. "You want me to come?" "Yes. He's been asking to meet you properly." I told him you're nervous about meeting new people. "Please, Mom, for me." "For her. Always for her." I agreed. Not because I wanted to meet him, but because I had to see him face to face. I needed to hear what he had to say, to look him in the eyes and find out what kind of game he was playing this time. When we arrived at the small countryside venue, the wind was cool and the air smelled like spring. Daniel was waiting near the gate, his smile wide and confident. But when his eyes met mine, that smile faltered. His face went pale. "Margaret," he whispered, as if he'd seen a ghost. Emma looked between us, confused. "You two know each other?" I didn't answer right away. The air was thick with silence. Daniel's lips parted, but no sound came out. He knew exactly who I was, and now I knew he hadn't changed one bit. I forced a small smile. "Yes, sweetheart. We've met before." Emma's eyes lit up. "Really? That's great." She turned to Daniel. "You never told me that." He laughed nervously. "It was a long time ago. I didn't think it mattered." But it mattered more than anything. I stood there quietly, watching them walk ahead hand in hand, my mind spinning. The man who once lied to me was now lying to my daughter. And I realized then that this wasn't just about protecting her heart. It was about facing the pain I'd buried for decades. That night, after Emma went to bed, I found myself sitting in the living room, staring into the dark. I didn't know how to stop this without breaking her heart. But one thing was clear. I couldn't stay silent anymore. Tomorrow, I would confront him. Not as the woman he once betrayed, but as the mother who would do anything to protect her daughter. The next morning, I woke up with a heaviness in my chest that wouldn't go away. I made coffee, but it tasted bitter, no matter how much sugar I added. My hands trembled around the mug as I stared out the window, watching the gray clouds drift across the sky. My heart knew what I had to do, but my mind kept whispering that I might lose Emma forever if I did it. Around noon, Daniel called. His voice was calm, too calm, like he was trying to act as though nothing had happened. "Margaret," he said softly, "can we meet? Alone." For a moment, I almost hung up. But then I thought, yes, we should meet. It was time to face him and get the truth out of him before he twisted anything around. We met at a quiet cafe near the old library. When I walked in, he was already there, sitting in the same corner where we used to sit years ago. The sight of him made my stomach churn. His hair was grayer, his suit a little too neat, but that same fake charm was written all over his face. He stood up when he saw me. "You look just the same," he said, with that same soft smile that once melted me. I didn't return it. "You don't," he sighed, sitting back down. "I suppose I deserve that. I didn't waste time. What are you doing with my daughter, Daniel?" His expression flickered, just for a second. "Margaret, it's not what you think." "Oh, I think it's exactly what it looks like," I snapped, my voice shaking. "You disappeared from my life after lying to me, after using me. And now, after all these years, you just happened to fall in love with my daughter." He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "I didn't know, Margaret. I swear to you, when I met Emma, I had no idea she was your daughter. I didn't even recognize your last name." I wanted to believe him, but I'd heard those same soft tones before. The same careful words meant to calm me down while he kept his lies hidden. "Do you expect me to believe that?" I asked coldly. He rubbed his hands over his face. "I made mistakes when I was younger. Big ones. But I'm not that man anymore. She's special. She makes me want to be better." Hearing him say her name like that made my blood boil. I stood up, pushing my chair back. "You can't marry her, Daniel. You won't ruin her the way you ruined me." He looked up at me, his eyes wide and desperate. "Please don't tell her. If she finds out, she'll hate both of us. Let me handle this, I didn't let him finish. "No. You don't get to handle anything anymore." I turned and walked out before the tears in my eyes could fall. All the way home, my mind spun in circles. Every time I thought of Emma's smiling face, my chest hurt. She was so happy, so full of dreams, and I was about to shatter all of it. That night, she came home humming, holding a small velvet box. "Mom," she said, sitting next to me, "he gave me this." She opened it to show a delicate diamond ring, shining under the light. "He proposed early. Isn't it beautiful?" My throat tightened. I nodded, forcing a smile that felt like a lie. "It's lovely, sweetheart." "I wish you'd smile like that for real," she said softly, tilting her head. "You've been distant lately. Is something wrong?" I looked at her, my daughter, my whole world, and felt my heart breaking. "I just want to make sure you're happy, honey." "I am," she said, smiling again. "I've never been happier." She kissed my cheek and went to her room, humming again as if the world was perfect. I sat there, staring at the ring box she left on the table. That little diamond sparkled so brightly, but all I could see in its reflection was my own pain staring back at me. Later that night, I took out the old photo again, me and Daniel, back when I still believed in him. I stared at it for a long time before tearing it into tiny pieces. But no matter how many times I ripped that picture apart, the past wouldn't go away. I knew what I had to do now. I couldn't protect Emma by staying silent. The truth was ugly, but lies were worse. Tomorrow, I'd tell her everything. Even if it broke her heart. Even if it broke mine too. The next morning, I barely slept. I kept turning over, hearing Emma's laughter from the night before echo in my head. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Daniel's face, calm, smooth, confident. And I felt that same old ache of betrayal rise again. I knew I couldn't carry this secret anymore. I waited until Emma came down for breakfast. She looked bright, glowing even, her hair pulled back and her eyes full of that innocent excitement only young love can bring. She poured herself some coffee and smiled at me like nothing was wrong. "Morning, Mom," she said cheerfully. "Morning." I replied, my voice barely steady. Emma, can we talk? It's important. She froze mid-sip, her smile fading just a little. You sound serious. Is everything okay? I took a deep breath. It's about Daniel. Her eyebrows drew together. What about him? I hesitated, my heart racing. I wanted to choose the right words, gentle ones. But there are no gentle ways to destroy someone's happiness. Emma, I know him. I knew him a long time ago. She blinked. You knew him? What do you mean? He and I swallowed hard, forcing the words out. We were together. Years ago. Before you were even born. The silence that followed was unbearable. I could hear the clock ticking, the faint hum of the refrigerator, even the soft tremble of my own breath. Emma set her mug down slowly. Mom, are you saying Daniel, the man I'm marrying, was your ex? I nodded. Yes. Her face went pale, and then flushed red. She stood up, shaking her head. No, that's impossible. You're confused. I'm not confused, I said softly. I met him yesterday. I confronted him. He admitted everything. She stared at me, disbelief written all over her face. Why would you even meet him without telling me? How could you? Because I had to know the truth before I told you. I interrupted. He lied to me once, Emma. He left me broken. I didn't want him to do the same to you. Tears welled up in her eyes. Mom, you're wrong about him. He's not like that anymore. You're letting your past ruin my future. Her words cut deeper than she could ever know. I'm trying to save you from a man who only knows how to take, Emma. She backed away, shaking her head. No, you just don't want anyone else to have him. You're jealous. That word, jealous, hit me like a slap. I stood there, frozen, as she grabbed her phone and stormed out. The house felt empty again. The same kind of emptiness I'd lived with years ago when Daniel first walked away. I sank into the chair, covering my face with my hands. I didn't cry, not then. My tears felt dry, used up, gone. A few hours later, my phone rang. It was Daniel. I didn't want to answer, but something made me pick up. She told me everything, he said quietly. You shouldn't have done that. I told her the truth, I replied. She deserved to know. He sighed. You always had a way of ruining good things, Margaret. That sentence twisted in my chest like a knife. A good thing? You were about to marry my daughter. That's not love, Daniel. That's selfishness. He didn't respond for a long time. Then, in a cold voice, he said, You think you can turn her against me? You can't. She loves me. And then he hung up. That night, Emma didn't come home. I called her, sent messages, nothing. Every passing hour made my heart heavier. I didn't know where she was, or if she was safe. I prayed, I paced. I sat by the window waiting for her headlights to appear in the driveway. Around midnight, I finally saw her car pull in. She walked in quietly, her eyes swollen from crying. I didn't say a word. I just waited. She sank onto the couch and whispered, He told me everything. I sat down across from her, my hands shaking. What did he say? That you left him because you didn't want to commit. That you were the one who hurt him. Her voice cracked as she spoke. Mom, I don't know what to believe anymore. I leaned closer. Believe what you saw in his eyes, Emma. Not his words. Because his words will always sound right. That's how he traps you. She looked away, tears sliding down her cheeks. I love him, Mom. I know, I said softly. And that's what makes it hurt the most. The clock ticked between us again. The silence was heavier this time, like it was pressing down on both of us. I reached for her hand, but she pulled it away. I need time, she whispered. Please just don't say anything more. And she went upstairs without another word. I sat there in the quiet. The only sound left was the wind outside and the faint creak of the floorboards. I had told her the truth, but instead of saving her, it felt like I'd lost her. I didn't know what she'd decide. To walk away from him, or from me. But deep down, I knew the story wasn't over yet. Something inside me told me Daniel wasn't done. Not yet. The next morning, the house was too quiet. I could hear the faint sound of birds outside and the hum of the refrigerator, but inside me, everything felt still, like time had stopped. I made coffee, poured 2 cups out of habit, and placed one across the table for Emma, though I knew she wouldn't be coming down anytime soon. As I sat there, I kept replaying everything in my head. The way Daniel looked at me that first night. The way Emma's smile changed when she heard the truth. The words we both said that we couldn't take back. I had told myself that truth brings freedom, but sometimes, truth just leaves a heavier silence behind. Around noon, there was a knock on the door. I opened it to find Daniel standing there. He looked different, tired, defeated even. There were dark circles under his eyes, and his usual confident smile was gone. "May I come in?" he asked. I hesitated for a moment before nodding. He walked in and looked around, his gaze falling on the cup of coffee sitting untouched on the table. "You still take it black?" he asked quietly. "I do," I said. He nodded, then took a deep breath. "Emma's gone to her friend's place. She needed space." "I figured," I replied, keeping my tone calm. "And you? What do you want from me, Daniel?" He ran a hand through his hair, his voice low. "I didn't plan for this to happen. When I met her, I didn't even realize who she was. She never mentioned your name until it was too late." "Too late?" I asked. "Too late for what?" "To tell her you once broke her mother's heart." He flinched. "I didn't mean to hurt you back then, Margaret. I was stupid, selfish. But when I met Emma, I saw a chance to do things differently." I looked at him. The man who once held my dreams in his hands and dropped them without care. "You can't fix your past by starting a new life with my daughter," I said softly. "That's not healing, Daniel. That's running." He sighed, lowering his eyes. "You're right. I told her I couldn't marry her." For a moment, I didn't move. I just stood there, feeling the weight of his words settle in. "You told her?" He nodded. "Last night. After she came back from here. She cried. She asked me why. I told her I wasn't the man she thought I was. A part of me wanted to feel relief, but another part just felt empty." "Thank you for telling her," I said. He nodded again, his eyes glassy. "She deserves someone better. You both do." And then, without another word, he turned and left. I stood by the window, watching as he walked down the path and disappeared into the sunlight. When Emma came home later that evening, she didn't say much. She just stood by the door for a long moment, then came over and sat beside me on the couch. "Mom," she said quietly. He ended it. I nodded. "I know." She leaned against me, her voice trembling. "I thought I knew him. I thought I knew love." "You did," I whispered. "You knew love in its purest form, the kind that believes and forgives. But sometimes love isn't meant to last forever. Sometimes it just teaches us who we really are." We sat like that for a while, no words, just the sound of the rain starting to fall outside. It was soft, rhythmic, almost like the world was breathing again. After a few minutes, Emma spoke again. "I'm sorry for what I said. I didn't mean to hurt you." I brushed her hair back gently. "You didn't. You were just trying to protect your heart. I've been there too." She smiled faintly, her eyes wet. "Maybe we both needed this." I nodded. Maybe we did. That night, after she went to bed, I walked out to the porch. The rain had stopped, and the sky was clearing, streaked with pale light from the moon. I took a deep breath, feeling a strange peace settle over me. Not because everything was fixed, but because it was finally over. I thought about the mansion I lived in. This big, empty place filled with memories and echoes of the past. For years, I had been holding on to it like a piece of my identity. But now it just felt heavy. The next morning, I called Maria, the woman who had worked in my house for almost 20 years. She had always been kind, loyal, someone who cared without expecting anything in return. When she came into the room, I looked at her and smiled. "Maria," I said, "how would you feel about owning this house?" She froze, her eyes wide. "What do you mean?" "I mean," I said softly, "I want you to have it. You've taken care of this home longer than anyone. You filled it with warmth I could never give." She covered her mouth with her hands, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Oh, ma'am, I can't." "You can," I interrupted gently. "And you will. I don't need it anymore. It's time I let go of the things that kept me stuck in the past." She hugged me, sobbing quietly. I held her close, feeling the weight of years finally lift off my shoulders. Later that day, when Emma came downstairs, I told her what I'd done. She looked surprised at first, but then she smiled, really smiled, for the first time in days. "Mom," she said, That's the most beautiful thing you could have done. I nodded, feeling my own smile grow. Maybe forgiveness isn't about people, Emma. Maybe it's about releasing yourself. She took my hand and squeezed it gently. You taught me that today. As the sun set outside, casting golden light across the living room, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: peace. Not because everything was perfect, but because I had finally stopped holding on to the pain. Life has a strange way of circling back, of making us face what we once ran from. But when it does, we have two choices: to keep hurting, or to let go. I chose to let go. And for the first time in years, I was free.